mind-expanding, revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
All right, folks, good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. That's right, January 9th. It's actually our second Sunday. The first show of 2022 was last Sunday on the 2nd. So we're off and running, and 2022, I think, is going to be just as interesting as 2021 because, of course, we're going into the midterms in the 2022 November elections. We're expecting everyone, including the Democrats, all across the board, expecting a red wave or maybe red tidal wave. All right, some housekeeping. We're online at tjamshow.com as well as our blog site, joemangishow.com. On that note, all of our social media platforms are at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Check it out. We are live streaming on the TuneIn app, so just punch in WCRN, take us anywhere. You can listen to us on the WCRN radio site as well, our affiliates as well, naturally. And we're also streaming the show, camera in the studio, but you can listen to the audio on the show's social media platforms. So that would be Facebook, Twitter, my LinkedIn page, my YouTube channel, The Joe Mangiacotti Show, Joe Mangi Show, by the way, on Twitter and Facebook. And we're on Twitch TV under Joe M Show as well. Don't forget, you can reach the show off air anytime at joemshow@gmail.com or call us at 508-603-9778. All right, to join the conversation, 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. And you can also email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen. And I only look at that email during the show, folks. So if you're sending something or wanted to follow up with something from the show, use the other one, joemshow@gmail.com. All right. Good morning, Kim, and Happy New Year to you. First time we've laid eyes on each other in the new year.
Yeah, I was just looking back. I don't think I've been in here since the end of November.
So you took it. Were you down in the Caymans, the Bahamas? What did you go down to? Warm weather for the holidays?
Yeah, I was in the
Christmas with the palm tree.
Yeah, at one point I was in the COVID Islands. Floating along. But
a lot of people have been vacationing there from time to time.
Yes, but I'm okay. I'm good to go.
You feel good?
Yeah, it was about a month ago.
Yeah,
just a bunch of weird situations, but I'm back.
Now, how'd you know it came on? What was the first? Did you get tired? Did you sniff? Like, what was the? What made you say, "Oh, darn, I think I have the COVID"?
So I lost my smell. And that had happened 2 or 3 times during COVID, just from allergies.
Just by the way, let you know, when you came in the studio, you got your smell back. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
No, seriously, you lost your smell.
Yeah, but that had happened from allergies, and at one point I had taken some like nasal medicine.
And what about taste at this point?
Taste I didn't lose. I never lost taste, just smell. And then one day at work, I just hit a wall around like 3 o'clock. Could barely keep my head up. Dead tired, and I was like, well, something's got to be up here. So
you're fairly young and healthy, so you just waited it out at home, or did you do any therapeutics?
Yeah, I just stayed at home. I had 3 or 4 days of just being extremely tired, a little bit of a stuffy nose, but that's really all that hit me.
Interesting. Do you have any idea where you caught it, or do you care? I mean,
I have no clue.
Could have been at work, it could have been at the coffee shop, it could have been.
Yeah, it could have been anywhere. I have no clue.
Well, this is one of the things that we're talking about now, and we've been talking about this for a while. When Omicron first came on the scene, folks, the first reports that weren't coming from our own government medical officials, but coming out of South Africa, then France, and in England, was that this is going to be a very contagious but weak variant, and that is what it turns out to be. We've used the term, others have used the term, nature's vaccination. It's ripping through, right? We had 1 million, again, I'm going to use the term because lack of a better term at the moment, cases in this country in one day. Now, from the beginning of this whole pandemic, I have taken issue with the term cases by calling someone who is positive for a virus as a case. I think the vernacular should have been positives. We had 1 million people test positive, not cases. Cases in the medical realm of things, right? That seems to imply that you're a case. Your doctor's looking at you. You're maybe on a ventilator. You're on doctor's care, that kind of thing. And as more people are tested, we find more people positive. But they don't necessarily mean they're hospitalized or they're very ill. Cam, your case in point, it was like having a flu for a few days. It equated to. Other people are walking around positive. They have no idea. They feel no symptoms. Asymptomatic, right? They're walking around. They have the virus in them, and I think it's just not truthful to use the term case, and it scares people. When we look at these polls, especially among Democrats who tend to watch a lot of the mainstream media on the left, when asked if you get the virus, what do you think your chances of being hospitalized will be? And people are thinking it's in the 50% area, when it's really 4 to 5% of people who get the virus end up hospitalized. And they're usually, it's either because they're very elderly or obese, or they have other issues going on that, expose them to that situation. So the whole thing there is that we cannot get worried when we hear the term cases. I don't think we should be using the word by cases. So let's move on with that. But Cam, I'm happy that you're healthy again. You're good again. Being a young, healthy guy, it went through you, and you didn't have to really worry about too much stuff. So we have a texter come in and lets us know that 90% smell. So you did lose taste sensation. Okay, taste is 90% smell. So someone's saying you lost your smell, but your smell is so tied to your taste abilities that you would have lost.
Yeah, I lost some taste,
Yeah,
I'd say, but overall, I could still taste whatever I was eating. Or...
See, I wondered, when I've heard that about this, I'm trying to picture into myself. Are you, when you lose your taste, does it taste like you're licking styrofoam every day? I mean, I don't know what that means. As a guy who has never lost the taste that I can remember, nor would like to, I enjoy my palate, being, someone who, not for the last almost 2 years, but typically reviewing restaurants on a regular basis. I count on that ability, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. More on the virus and some angles on that later in the show, but I wanted to point out a couple of things. Bye-bye, Joy Reid. It looks as though there's shuffling going on at CNN, of course, as we know. They're having their problems. Not only the ratings have been just in the tanker, but they had the issue with Chris Cuomo, who was supposed to be his anchor, like the anchor for that network. This is a guy in prime time, and he just never could get he got the best ratings at CNN, but he couldn't really compete across the board here. And now we've had two producer type positions there have been arrested or indicted or now investigated for underage sexual improprieties. They have a mess over there, right? It's a dumpster fire at CNN, folks. Now we're saying Joy Reid will not have a job with the latest shuffle. So according to sources breaking over at Comcast, MSNBC's Joy, or Joyless Reid, as many of us refer to her, is getting the axe. Her show is going gone. Okay, so it's not official yet, but everybody in the industry seems to know that that she's not going to be on the schedule. She will lose her 7 p.m. show in the next round of reshuffling at MSNBC. She does not have a show come mid-spring. Decision has been made. The only thing left is messaging on the move, which will be, of course, the ratings. As was the case with Chris Cuomo over at CNN, Reid has allies over at Comcast. However, she has now, or is now, being viewed as unmanageable. So she might be a nightmare behind the scenes as well, I guess. Well, it appears that those allies have found out that she has also been less than truthful about past incidents. Seriously? You're just getting that now? This is the woman, remember, with the time traveling hackers? Because when she got this position, or there was the whole fallout about her tweets, and she's extremely racist. And she had, yeah, and I know she's a black female. That has nothing to do with being racist. You don't have to be a white male to be racist, folks. And she tried to explain that it was hackers. Her account was hacked and put on those tweets. But they were from years ago, right? So for them to now say, oh, now we're realizing that that she's been less than truthful about her past. Well, that's something. But I think this speaks to a bigger picture going on here. And is it maybe the time that we are seeing people reject the partisan propaganda media out there? I mean, how many times can you have stories wrong? All the time, wrong. And you continue to push what is known to be a false narrative and refuse to cover the stories in the news of the day fairly and as a news agency. Again, there's no problem with the distinction between an opinion show. We're right now, you're listening to an opinion show. I'm not pretending to be a news anchor at the moment. That's not how I identify. That's not the time slot I'm in. Although I've had that position many times over decades in this industry. I've been the news reporter, the news anchor, the news director at stations. And when I was on the air as that person, you would not have been able to tell my political leanings. And that's the way it should be. Now, Fox has, well, late night TV. Greg Gutfeld has become late night king in a matter of months after launching Gutfeld last year. And even the 5 at 5 on Fox, a show at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, ratings are beating prime time cable news shows. So do we see it finally happening? The people en masse is saying enough with the biased media. And they've always said, hey, we can do what we want. We're private companies and all that. But, you know, the right has gone out there and said, we're going to answer this with our own, right? We've had platforms like Locals and Getter and Tumble get created with conservatives behind it. Dan Bongino is a financial backer in, I think it's Rumble. So we've seen the conservatives say, fine, we will have our own platforms. And we see en masse a lot of politicians and people leaving Twitter by their own choice. I think Congressman Paul announced he's firing Twitter. He's leaving Twitter. And they're going to Getter, GTTR. We signed up. This show has signed up on that. So add that Joe Mangiacotti show to that platform as well. And that's going to grow. And I think we'll see the shuffle coming on. So we're seeing this. Now, Matt Walsh has just got suspended again from Twitter. And the topic that he got suspended for, I want to get into, because this is a topic I think we should talk about on this show as well. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000 to join the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Let's go to Mark in Worcester. Good morning, Mark. You look marvelous.
You look marvelous as well. I enjoyed the second shaft. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Freudian slip if I ever heard one. With the interview with the Senator Moore.
Oh.
And I finally got a straight answer from him. It took 2 years, but I was happy,
Mark.
pleased. Excuse me?
Yeah, that's what persistence will do for you, Mark.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And I asked him, how much did the boys and the girls at the State House, how much money did they get dumped in their laps? Not ours, theirs. $80 billion. Is that the number he gave me?
$80
$80 billion.
billion. Well, Massachusetts got $5 billion. But I'm looking at my notes from yesterday's show to see if I see 80 billion written down, Mark, to see what that was too. But you might be remembering it correctly. I can't say no. I'm looking through yesterday's
Well,
notes.
either way, the way was 8 billion or 80 billion, as they used to say when we were kids. That's a lot of do-re-mi.
It's sure more than
money.
you and I are probably ever going to have on our dining room table. I can say that.
Yeah, we don't have a dining room table big enough to hold it. So anyways, that being said, I want to go on to my next topic that I want to, and I'm going to be brief with it. It's beginning to look to me not a lot like Christmas, but it's beginning to look to me with the rollout of these readily available, relatively cheap at-home testing kits. What it's beginning to look like to me is that over the course of the past 2 years, the vast majority of people who live within the state of Massachusetts either have been exposed to the virus, have contracted the virus, or at present have the virus in their system.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they've been tested, untested previously, whether they were symptomatic or asymptomatic, it's starting to look to me like everybody, most people, we'll say 80%, have been exposed to this pathogen. That's what it's starting to look like to me.
Yeah, or herd immunity, right? That point that we've reached.
Well, whether it's herd immunity, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but I'm just looking at what I'm seeing, and everybody's testing positive.
Yeah.
Whether they've had the virus before, whether they never had the virus before, whether they had the virus before and they weren't even aware that they had the virus, whether they've been jabbed or unjabbed, the bottom line, what it looks like to me is most people in this state have been exposed to it. They either were asymptomatic, symptomatic, jabbed, unjabbed, or they have it within their systems. That's what it's beginning to look like to me.
Yes, and I agree. And I think that, look, in the whole history of the last 2 years, Mark, right, every time that we increased testing, the number, and I'm air quoting, number of cases went up. And then
exponentially.
Exactly. And that tells me that maybe one of the reasons that someone forgot to order a bunch of tests might have been they didn't want those numbers out there. Because if you noticed at the same time that we forgot to order a lot of tests and it's very difficult to get the tests, it was at the same time that that Fauci and company started to shift the verbiage from maybe we should be looking at the number of hospitalizations and not the number of cases. So so at the same time that it was a problem to get tested or find the tests, is the same time they said we should stop looking at cases and start looking at actual hospitalizations. But one of the problems they had, Mark, is when they actually looked at that, hospitalizations really didn't go skyrocketing. So it didn't help their narrative, and that narrative they have is they want to keep us in that panic and that fear. They want to keep us thinking this, whereas now it's time to live with it.
You're starting to get this. You even started to get this from the president.
Yeah,
he kind of dropped a hint that essentially the federal government will not be the cure to this problem. You remember him saying that?
Yeah, exactly.
So he knows. Yeah, he knows what we just got through talking about.
Absolutely.
He knows it.
You got it.
They know it too.
You got it.
Now the golden lining to all of this mess may be that this thing is with this Omicron. They say that it hits quick, but it won't put you in the hospital.
Right.
Which may indicate to me that this thing is mutated to the point where the most recent mutation is not like the Delta mutation of 2 years ago. In other words, it's much less likely
exactly
to
regardless
kill
of what
you.
Regardless of what Justice Sotomayor was saying. I don't know if you caught that the other day, but she's saying that this the Omicron virus is deadly, as bad as Delta. We have 100,000 kids who are in the hospital, most on ventilators. The woman had absolutely nothing right. So I don't know where the heck she's getting her information from, but it's very concerning to me that a sitting United States Supreme Court justice has her facts so horribly wrong. And because of it, because she's going to use those completely wrong facts and information when she's sitting there deliberating on serious issues before SCOTUS. So that was very concerning. But yeah, and look, he said the other day about it's the states who have to handle this, right? He threw it back to the states, Mark. Donald Trump said that 2 years ago, 3 years ago almost, right? He said the states have got to handle it. We will back up the states with whatever they need. But Donald Trump said that a long time ago. Governors, do what's best for your state. Let me know what you need. And that's what he did, right? You had Cuomo, governor then, saying, we're not going to have enough ventilators. Trump had ventilators raining down on New York for him. He sent that Mercy ship that never got used once.
Right. But I'll reiterate what I just previously said. This last mutation of the virus, Omicron, is less virulent than the one that we had 2 years ago. So it may indicate that this thing is burning itself out and it's on its way out, and it'll wind up just being another form of the common cold. You understand what I'm saying?
I got it, Mark. It's absolutely.
All right, have a good one, brother.
You.
All right. Yep.
It's absolutely nature's vaccination, folks. That's what it is. And we've been saying this. As a matter of fact, now, I just want to take a side here, based on what Mark's conversation led us into. Is Yahoo News has a great article saying, some Angelenos say it's time to learn to live with COVID. And that's the message across the board. I said this to you folks weeks ago. Look, this is on the planet. All right. It's on the planet. It's not going away. It's a virus. It's a respiratory virus that now exists on planet Earth. It cannot be eradicated. It'll never be zero. So now we just have to get back to our normal lives, and we're going to live with this virus on the planet like we live with the flu and the variants of the flu. And as the coronavirus cases soared across Los Angeles last week, they're coming to the realization that we're going to have to live with this. And this is good because this has been LA and California has been one of the most draconian states when it comes to their policies. And it's one of the biggest contributors to these mass exoduses that are going on in these blue cities and blue states to the red states. And Gruck, I don't know if you watch Gutfeld, but Greg Gutfeld said something, and I thought, he's a comedian, he jokes, right? But I got to tell you, I wish we could do this. He said, if you move from a blue state to a red state, you should have to sign a waiver that you can't vote for 5 years, or at least you can't vote for those blue policies. And I know it's tongue in cheek and it's a joke, but that is the fear I have is we have a little microcosm of that here in Massachusetts. A lot of people left Massachusetts, went up into New Hampshire, and now a lot of those, especially the southern New Hampshire communities, are starting to look a lot like Massachusetts because they bring the same failed policies and voting habits with them. And I say, if you make that move, live a while in a state with a reasonable amount of regulations and no state income tax, right? And the policies that make these states nice to live in. They have clean water, right? They have clean air. They've got great services. trash removal, education systems. They're all doing it without these ridiculous leftist policies. So give it a shot. All right, coming up at 7 o'clock, of course, conservatively speaking with Mike Wade. He's in the station, or he's in the building anyway, so maybe he'll sit in a little early with us. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Joe Mangiacotti from the Boxstrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studio. Stick with us. Back on the other side, folks.
It's time to go out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Levante's Auto School with 5 locations. Click Levante's Auto School to find one near you. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. And this week I thought we'd take a little time to talk about, well, some of those interesting Christmas facts that you can impress your friends and family with. For those of us who are a little out of practice when it comes to dinner table conversation, or you need to redirect the topic away from some controversial fare, these Christmas facts will come to your rescue. You can also use them to spice up your annual Christmas letter, give your social media posts some flair, or study up for holiday-themed trivia night. It's likely not news to anyone that there's a lot more to Christmas than giving and receiving gifts. For example, Christmas wasn't always on December 25th. While Christmas celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ, the actual date is lost to history. There's no mention of December 25th in the Bible, and many historians say Jesus was really born in the spring. And some historians say the date was originally chosen because it coincided with the pagan festival of Saturnalia, which honored the agricultural god Saturn with celebrating gift giving. And gifts have both Christian and pagan origins. See, Christians may have grown up learning that we give gifts at Christmas to mimic the presents the 3 wise men brought to baby Jesus. But like so many other traditions, that also has its roots in Saturnalia. The pagans originally gave offerings to the gods as well. And you can thank Prince Albert for your Christmas tree. So brew a cup of tea when trimming your tree this year to pay homage to its origin. See, when Prince Albert of Germany got a tree for his new wife, Queen Victoria of England, it really took off across the pond. Well, a drawing of the couple in front of the Christmas tree first appeared in the Illustrated London News in 1848. And well, in today's vernacular, that really went viral and people started putting trees in the house. And speaking of Santa's appearance and look, see, Coca-Cola played a part in Santa's image. Before Coca-Cola decided to use his image for advertising, Santa's looks tended to be more spooky than jolly. Then in 1931, the beverage company hired an illustrator named Haddon Sundblom to depict the jolly old elf for a magazine ad. Now kids see visions of sugar plums instead of having Santa-themed nightmares. And the hanging of your stockings, well, that kind of started by accident. Legend has it we hang stockings by the chimney with care, thanks to a poor man who didn't have enough money for his 3 daughters' dowries. See, generous old St. Nick dropped a bag of gold down their chimney one night after the girls had hung their freshly washed stockings there to dry. That's where the gold ended up, and the tradition stuck. Some might think that Black Friday is the busiest shopping day of the year, but Black Friday isn't the busiest shopping day. Black Friday, or the day after Thanksgiving, certainly sees a lot of shoppers heading to the mall, but we must be a nation of procrastinators because the most hectic days of the year are actually the Friday and Saturday before Christmas, so plan ahead if you don't care for crowds. And one more for you. Silent Night is the most recorded song. We all know the same few handful of Christmas songs play at stores and on the radio in a loop all season long, but one of them has been adapted more than others. Silent Night earns that title as the most recorded Christmas song in history. It's had more than 733 different versions copyrighted since 1978. For more of these facts and tips, check the post out on outwithjoe.com for the complete article. We have suspended the Music Minute for the time being, but please support your local musicians. We do. Follow us on the social media platforms at Out with Joe. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Levante's Auto School with 5 locations, one near you.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know they now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed?
That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. Call 877 Drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Don't forget, we're on all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. Yes, including Getter. That's right. We have all of these new platforms, and they are fueled by conservatives who said, fine, you're going to shadow ban us? You're going to ban us? You're going to delete our accounts? We will make our own platforms. And the answer to that are platforms like Locals, Getter, Rumble. And there's some big conservative names like Dan Bongino behind some of these. So that's what we have to do, right? You have to do it. And at that rate, they even tried to squash them with, because remember, Amazon, AWS, Amazon has the servers. People don't understand that Amazon, that yes, they make billions of dollars in all that Amazon, store and all that. But a lot of their power and wealth comes behind the fact that they have the servers that major companies like the credit card companies, Sears, whatever, they use the Amazon Web Services to host their or to store their web pages and their processes. So anyway, that's happening. Coming up at 7 o'clock is Mike Wade with Conservatively Speaking, but he's in the building earlier. Hey, Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
How are you doing, sir? You gonna get your mic on?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
Yep. I was listening to the show on my way in. The other thing I don't understand is, you talk about Amazon and their servers. Didn't Amazon shut down power for a while with their servers? Or are the servers so expensive that, say, like Power or Rumble can't afford to do that on their own? Is that what it is?
Oh no, they when Parler went out, right? They did. They stopped, not across the board. They just squashed Parler. So they said, oh, go build your own. Okay, we will. And then they conspired and they shut them down on their servers in Parler. And Dan Bongino, I believe, also actually had a part of that. They had to go out to other countries, had to go outside of the United States to a series of other countries and nations to make deals with them to use their server farms in order to have free speech in the United States. Get that, right? I mean, think about that for a moment. To have free speech in the United States, we had to go out. The owners and managers of Parler, had to leave the country to go to other web services who were not going to censor what they had to say. And this is why I continually say that it's time to revisit Section 230. It's time for for Congress, and there are members on both sides of the aisle, Mike, but for different reasons, who want to bring big tech into line. And I maintain that, just like we did with Ma Bell, right? When we broke up Ma Bell and we broke up the railroads and we did all these things. When you get too big and you monopolize, we have to do something about that. Even Joe Biden is trying to blame the cost of meat going up, not on his policies, not on the cost of transportation and energy, not the cost of labor, but that it is 4 big companies controlling a majority of the meat, the right big meat. So he's blaming big meat on this. So he understands the concept of monopolizing one industry. So he gets that it can exist. But right now, we have to look at treating these big tech platforms as public utilities and regulate them accordingly and or break them up. But the thing about this is, and I maintain this time and time again, folks, when they're working under the color of law in conjunction, and Jen Psaki says this all the time, Mike, we meet with big tech all the time. And so when they meet and they work with them, they are actually an agent of the government. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, the Constitution now plays a role, and freedom of speech should be applied to these social media platforms.
The other thing is okay, where Amazon then, has something to do with MasterCard, Visa, and all the other companies using it. So a lot of their money's coming in. So evidently these servers have to be extremely expensive for, say, a smaller outfit, whether it's Power, Lumber, or some of the other ones that you listed, to, in other words, buy their own servers. That's why they have to go out of the country. Yeah. All right, so now I understand it, where these servers are so expensive, you can't afford to buy them, where Amazon got into it early, have a lot of contracts, so now they have money coming in, so they can basically do what they want. In other words, they control, like you were just talking about, Joe, they control free speech. In other words, I couldn't believe it. First time I've ever was blocked. All right. Well, I was trying to.
You were blocked?
No,
you don't do any of that stuff.
No, I wasn't blocked.
They
but
came
I was,
to your house and said,
yeah,
stop.
Right. Yeah. When I was trying to get on the site from Newsmax about Joe Biden's IQ, I couldn't get on. The other thing is I was also looking up a doctor, Dr. Mary Tyler Bowden, and I couldn't get on that site either because evidently they don't play in, and evidently they do not want anybody to understand what Joe Biden's IQ is.
Yeah. So what they did is they just take those search words, they take those links, and we saw them do this with the Hunter Biden, right? They shut down the New York Post. Look at, one of the oldest newspapers in the country. They stopped. They shut down their Twitter account. Then they actually stopped the ability to link that story or send that story. That should have been, to me, that should have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Was that time they did that to the Post, the time that they blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story, because if you don't see that as the most blatant censorship and manipulation, I don't know what it is. And the DOJ, of course, it's controlled by the wrong people right now. But see, the Department of Justice, it shouldn't matter who's in office. The DOJ should be doing everything based on law and the enforcement of law. And this is a conspiracy when you get these big tech companies together and they're colluding with each other like this, and they're deciding what is news and what isn't news. This is just wrong in every front. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. The Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Mike Wade in studio coming up at 7 o'clock with Conservatively Speaking. Let's go to Ken in Bolton. Ken, thanks for being patient and holding on. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Joe. And hello again, Patriots.
All right.
Let me pick right up from your topic you were just talking about. All of these tyrannical thugs are going to be crushed this year, starting this year. So, for instance, do you know what's happening next month?
Besides,
next month is the debut of Truth.
Oh yeah, okay. That's Trump's new platform.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's Trump's new platform.
Exactly.
Now, did you happen to find out more on that? Is that going to look like a Twitter type account?
Well, I don't know as much about the details. I think it's
Yeah.
a combination of Twitter and Facebook type
Yeah.
of platform. But I think there's actually a date, like February 21st. I just saw posted within the last day or two.
Yeah, let me see if I
But
can
it's all
find
of a sudden
something
the
on
beat.
it. I mean,
In
I'm
fact, I think
sure
if it goes up
you,
on
like me, like many people, we get tons of
go to the
emails, right?
Bongino report. I think that's where they had it, and it'll probably be still posted as to the date. But nonetheless, so I don't waste our time with the regulations. The solutions aren't coming from Washington D.C. As long as the marketplace swamps these people who don't believe in First Amendment, then they'll be crushed, much like Joy Reid, as you reported earlier.
Yeah. She's finally, I don't understand why that. I've said it a million times on this show, and I do not attack other talk show hosts or journalists or anything like that. But this woman is a racist, not to mention that, I mean, let's face it, she's going to be right up there with Don Lemon as one of the, stupidest people on the air. But she was horrible in the way she's a racist. The way that she talks about things, the information she talks about is beyond erroneous. I mean, just it's to the point, she can't possibly not know that or be that stupid. She has to, you figure to yourself, she has to purposely be lying and manipulating what she's saying, right? I mean, there's no way that she could be that out of it. But apparently, they finally caught up to her. So Trump's new social media platform set to launch on President's Day, February 21st, according to the latest Apple Store listing.
He's the president.
And Truth Social, the 45th president, announced in October, latest conservative alternative to large social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, which the former president has repeatedly slammed for censorship. The new app is being launched by Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG, and can be pre-ordered before its expected release date. According to the App Store listing, users of the platform can share their unique opinion by posting a truth or retruth photo, news story, or video link to communicate with your friends, customers, and the world. So they're going to be using, so instead of a tweet, it's a truth, and then a retweet will be a retruth. Interesting. And I have a picture of the screen of the app on the story I'm looking at, and it looks like it's going to look more like a Twitter account than it will a Facebook account.
Yep, that sounds consistent.
Because he was more into Twitter, right? Trump.
Yeah,
Trump
absolutely.
Was. And I got to tell you, you got to think that CNN and MSNBC would love Twitter to reinstate his account because it always gave them something to talk about. And I think the Biden White House would love to see President Trump reinstalled on Twitter, because then they could spend their time talking about his tweets and not the failure of the administration. They would love that distraction right now, Ken.
Yeah, but that's a rabbit hole for them. So go ahead, make our day.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So President's Day's coming out. So maybe I will get on this thing and get one of those pre-order ones to be there when it opens, because it will fill up quickly, right? As soon as it's launched, you're going to have all of the big conservatives, right? The Dan Bonginos and the Matt Walshes and Rand Paul, Senator Cruz, they're all going to get on it right away.
Yeah, well, the other thing is the amount of followers we had on Twitter. And I presume a lot of those people will be getting onto his new platform.
Absolutely.
And so, in other words, like you say, maybe you should pre-order it because it's going to be really big.
It's good. Yeah, it'll be good. Let's see what happens with it. And I think this is this Trump Media and Technology Group. I'm figuring that's probably the beginning of what he plans to do. In other words, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road we see a Fox-like or a Newsmax-like channel.
Yep. In fact, we thought that was likely to be the case in 2016.
Yeah.
Under the assumption, I think he had the assumption that he was going to lose the election, and suddenly, oh my, I won. And plans changed, but I think he's just put that on the shelf, and thankfully, or truthfully, I hope that's the direction he goes. I think there's so many venues that the conservative movement can win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
I'm not laughing at. I'm laughing at Teddy has gotten up onto the counter to be with Mike, but he's a little gassy this morning. So Mike is getting the brunt of it right now.
So
Sorry.
anyway, Joe.
Teddy is even phasing him. Oh, sorry about that, Mike.
Yeah,
All right.
Today's Hall of Shame.
Yeah, let's do the Hall of Shame
So
and Hall of Fame.
I have for you two names nobody was talking about prior to this week. Now, one literally has been talked about, and the second one you don't have any idea who this is, and this person's massive. So, Hall of Shame, Alvin Bragg, New York City District Attorney. Wow. You mean armed robbery?
Yeah.
Worth going to jail for?
This is another George Soros backed DA.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, as much as I think that man is psychotic and a criminal, I got to tell you, he isn't stupid, because he realized this obviously years ago. Screw me back in governors and presidential candidates. I'm going to instill the DAs across the major cities, who are following my marching orders, my ilk, my philosophy, and that will ruin the country. Because regardless, you can have a law and order mayor, governor, right? You can have those, but if you got a DA who just won't prosecute, and my point on this, Jamoke, guys, he should be recalled immediately, because it's not his job to change the law. The DA's purpose is to prosecute and enforce the laws on the book. He can't arbitrarily say, I'm just not going to charge these people, and I'm going to knock that down from a felony to a misdemeanor. Well, that is up to the legislature, which is the representation of the people, meaning it's up to the people, not you, to decide this. This guy is so grossly incompetent and derelict in his duties. Mike?
Yeah, listening to what's going on there. First off, George Soros, his ambition is to bring this country down. That's his number one priority, is to bring this country down. The other thing is this DA, in other words, a lot of people in Manhattan knew exactly what he stood for, yet they actually elected him.
I know, right?
And it doesn't make sense to me. If you elect a mayor to enforce the laws, try to get a lot of these criminals in other words, the robberies and everything else that's going on in New York City, and all of a sudden you elect a DA that isn't going to prosecute anybody, where are you going to go? And I can see where the police get frustrated. I mean, why go after these guys? They're only going to be out on the street. And how can you hold the gun to somebody and whatever they want to call it, a misdemeanor or whatever? It does not make sense. And you're right, Joe. Maybe people now in New York City, in the surrounding areas where he's a DA of, maybe they'll finally wake up and say, yes, let's recall this guy. Let's get somebody else in there. And if you're going to want to clean up your cities, if you have a DA like this, it's true, Joe, you're never going to get anything cleaned up, because they're not going to punish any criminals. And the criminals are just going to get more blatant and more. In other words, they don't care because they know they're not going to be punished. So
well, that's the other thing, right? He gave out, and not only is he not prosecuted, but he announces this. So he has sent out the message to the criminal element there, folks. This is what you can do. Here's a list of crimes that you can get away with. There you go. I mean, how idiotic is that? But Ken, well, who's on your absolutely a great Hall of Shame on that? And who's your fame?
I got an even better one, but just to follow up on what we just talked about, we need to research how does this guy get booted if there is a recall process. So that's homework for all of us in the next.
There's already one started. Someone already started a recall petition. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we know then that there is that procedure. Good. Yeah. All right. So here is the big news of the day. The Hall of Fame of possibly all time for the United States of America. Elizabeth Murrill, spelled Murrill. She's the Louisiana Solicitor General. remember how I mentioned yesterday that I need to do some homework on what happened on Friday with the Supreme Court?
Mm-hmm.
I listened to the entire 4 hours. And let me tell you, this is not certainty as to the outcome of this. We've always used the term fork in the road. Joe and Mike, it's right now.
Yeah.
And literally, how this is the ruling that we're likely to hear tomorrow is my guess, because when this was all over, they said, we'll meet again Monday at 10 a.m. I believe the ruling is going to come out Monday, and it will be whether we're heading down or
right, because it's going to be precedent setting. So what this ruling will set. So if they go and they uphold it and so forth, it's changed government. It's changed the power of government, the scope of government.
Absolutely.
If they rule against it, it checks it, and at least somewhat keeps us back in the United States of America we grew up in to a degree.
So
all right, those are good. Good haul and shame this week, Ken.
So let me lay it on what Elizabeth Murrow's all about. So there was the first 2 hours was about the one we're most familiar with, OSHA. The second, so there's two things that are being brought to the Supreme Court to rule on. So the second thing being ruled on is how medical personnel who are tied to Medicaid and Medicare funding, and if they are required, and their mandate is even stricter. They don't have any option. They just have to get the job, or you lose your job. Period. No exceptions. Well, Elizabeth Murrow came on for the second one. So literally, if someone's looking up and trying to hear the 4 hours and just want to catch Elizabeth Murrow, she's the last 20 to 30 minutes. And she was the first of the three who really put the liberals back on their heels. She was very forceful. And I think they have made a difference. I'm hoping desperately. So I implore you and Mike and everybody, listen to her. It's 20 to 30 minutes of your day. And you may be hearing what makes the difference in our country going forward.
All right.
The other thing is okay, if you punch in her name, will it come up where you can get the last 20, 30 minutes of what was going
possible.
on?
We can Google her name and put SCOTUS argument or something, and it will come up. But Ken, I got to hold you there. We got one more call we got to fit in before the end of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Let's go to Gary in Northbridge, who's been waiting patiently. Hey, Gary. Good morning, sir.
Hey. Good morning. How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Good. Thanks for taking the call. It's interesting. You spoke about, the freedom of speech and these platforms, Facebook, Twitter, whatever Trump's going to be coming out with, and there's millions of others as well. It's a really interesting thing, for a constitutionalist. It's something that, I want to say, sure, we should be able to say what we want. I've been in Facebook jail 1.5 million times, like everybody else has. At the same time, though, it's not really. I mean, it's a private business, and it's not the public square. And do we really have freedom?
Well, wait a minute, though, Gary. Is it really not the public square, though?
I don't think it is, because you don't own it. It's not yours.
No, I get that. However, you got to remember that we could start to get into the real deep dive of this as who owns the internet. The internet's out there. It exists. Do private companies own it? Is it the government? Is it for everybody?
I think that your entity, your business is your business. If you have a business that does business online, or if you're Walmart, or if you're wherever you are, Walmart, you would say, is as public a place as anyone, right? Could be. Everybody goes to Walmart, but you don't have the right to say what you want there. I think we like to
actually,
put the word
you
kind of
do. To a certain degree. But let's go. Wait a minute, Gary. Let's back up to your original contention on this. And my point on this is not the first time in history that we as a government and a people say something. We have anti-monopoly laws, right? We broke up the railroads because we had one guy controlling all the railways. We broke up Ma Bell. because Marbell had a monopoly, and now we have multiple phone companies. Yet the irony there, Gary, what's happening, right? They keep buying each other up, and now we're back down to just a couple of companies that own
back to
everything.
it, right? But don't forget, I mean, but we're upset because socialists basically have taken over the media. There's no news media in America anymore. That's gone.
Yeah.
And if you go to the other side, it's just the other side the same way. I just think that we all should take a breath whenever we mention rights, Constitution, freedom. It's always going to be that two-way street, and I just am very nervous if someone's don't tell. It's my business. I'll do what I want. I think Trump's right. Open up his own.
Yeah, well, and that's why we got this. We got Getter and Rumble and Locals being put out there. Now, I think that when Parler started to do its thing, and Amazon Web Services went along in collusion with Google and Microsoft and so forth to squash them, that I think is when the DOJ needs to step in and say, now you're manipulating the free market.
Or even Congress could pass a law, or they could call for a constitutional convention, or they could. There's a lot of things that we can do. I just say, and I'll leave you with this: let's just do it the right way.
I agree.
Just because we don't agree, or that one doesn't agree, or this one doesn't.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, Gary, Section 230 has got to be withdrawn. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but Section 230 was put in place in the 90s when the internet was young, and it gave them exemption. I don't think that these private companies should be able to play by their own special rules. They should have to play by every other rule that a company has to play by. So they have to make the decision. Are we a platform or are we a news outlet? And pick one and stick with it. But I got to end it there. You're welcome to call back during Conservatively Speaking. But folks, that's going to wrap up the Joe Mangiacotti Show Sunday edition from the Boxstrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Mike Wade and Conservatively Speaking after the break.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
You're on your